Here's something no one tells you. Some of the sharpest people walking this earth right now don't have degrees hanging on their walls. They don't read self-help books. They never sat in a psychology class. But they can walk into a room and feel everything that's happening before a single word is spoken. And most of them are over 50. They built something inside themselves over decades of living. Something quiet, something powerful, and they don't even know it has a name. So let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why you notice things other people completely miss? Pay attention to what comes next, because what most people believe about intelligence after 50 is completely wrong. Society tells you that your sharpest years are behind you, that the mind slows down, that everything you went through was just life being hard. But that's not what psychology says. What psychology says is almost the opposite. The things you survived didn't just leave marks. They built something. And what they built is one of the rarest forms of perception that exists. It doesn't show up on any test. It doesn't come with a certificate, but it runs deeper than most things that do. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the first sign. You read people without trying. Someone smiles at you and says everything is fine, but something inside you already knows it isn't. You feel it in their voice, in the way they pause a little too long, in the way their eyes don't match their words. This isn't a gift you were born with. This is something your life built into you. Decades of watching, decades of paying attention. Your brain learned to scan people because at some point you had to, and now it does it automatically, without you even noticing. The second sign is that you carry other people's weight without anyone asking. You sense when someone around you is struggling. You adjust. You soften your voice. You ask the right question at the right moment. And here's the part most people miss. You do this even when you're the one who needs help. That pattern didn't come from nowhere. It was shaped by years of putting others first because that felt safer than being seen. The third sign is something people around you probably notice more than you do. When everything falls apart, you don't panic. You go quiet. You think. You move. While everyone else is reacting, you're already 3 steps ahead. This is not calm by nature. This is calm built by pressure. Your nervous system learned a long time ago that falling apart wasn't an option. So it adapted, and now that adaptation looks like strength, because it is. But there's something deeper behind it that almost nobody talks about. The fourth sign. You think about why people do what they do, not casually, deeply. You replay conversations in your head. You catch things people said that didn't make sense. You wonder what someone really meant when they looked away mid-sentence. This kind of thinking isn't overthinking. It's a mind that was trained to decode human behavior because understanding people was a matter of survival. And after 50 years of doing this, you've built a library of human patterns that most trained professionals would envy. You just never called it that. The fifth sign might surprise you. You feel things more intensely than the people around you. A song can stop you in the middle of a room. An old photograph can bring tears that seem to come from nowhere. A stranger being kind to someone can move you in a way you can't explain. This isn't weakness. This is depth. Your emotional system was activated again and again across your life. And that repetition didn't make you fragile. It made you capable of feeling the world at a frequency most people will never reach. Now pay close attention here, because the sixth sign reveals a pattern that changes how you see everything you've done. You built your life without waiting for permission. You didn't wait to be rescued. You didn't wait for someone to hand you a plan. You figured things out, alone, quietly, over and over again. And the people around you probably have no idea how much you carried by yourself. This self-reliance wasn't a personality trait. It was a response. Your mind learned early that depending on others was unpredictable. So it built an internal system that could handle things without outside help. And that system still runs today, even when you don't need it to. The seventh sign, you struggle with trust, not because you're closed, but because you've seen too much. You know what people are capable of. You know how quickly things can shift. So you watch, you wait, you test slowly. And when you finally trust someone, it's not shallow. It's one of the deepest forms of connection a person can offer, because it was earned through decades of learning who deserves access to the real you. There's a detail here that almost nobody notices, and it leads directly into the eighth sign. You have trouble resting, not your body, your mind. When things get quiet, something inside you starts scanning, reviewing, preparing. Stillness feels strange, sometimes even threatening. This isn't anxiety in the clinical sense. This is a nervous system that spent years being trained to stay alert, and learning to let go of that alertness is one of the hardest things a person like you can do, because your brain still believes on some level that if you stop watching, something will go wrong. The ninth sign is one that most people with this kind of mind never talk about. You feel alone in a way that's hard to explain, not because you don't have people around you, but because very few people see the version of you that exists underneath, the one that notices everything, the one that carries so much, the one that understands things at a level that most people don't even know exists. That loneliness isn't a flaw, it's the cost of perception. The more you see, the harder it becomes to find someone who sees the same way. The 10th sign. You question yourself more than you should, despite everything you've built, despite every room you've read correctly, despite every crisis you've navigated. There's a voice inside you that still asks, am I enough? And here's the part that matters. That voice isn't telling you the truth. It's an echo from a time when your worth wasn't reflected back to you. And it stayed because no one ever told you it was wrong, but it is wrong. Because everything you've survived is the proof. Now here's the 11th sign, and this one is the most important. You carry a deep, quiet sense of meaning. You don't move through life on the surface. You've looked at pain directly, your own and others, and something inside you refused to let it be pointless. You turned your experience into understanding, your wounds into wisdom, your silence into strength. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth, but you don't need a term for it. You've been living it for decades. Here's what all of this really means. What you carry inside you is not damage. It's architecture. Every scar taught your brain to notice more, to feel more, to understand more. The world told you those years were just hard. But the truth is, those years were building something extraordinary. A mind that reads what others can't see. A heart that feels what others walk past. A strength that doesn't need to announce itself. And after 50 years of this, you've become something rare. Not because you tried to, but because life demanded it, and you answered every single time. So let me ask you this. Which of these signs hit closest to home? Was there one that made you stop and think, that's me? Tell me in the comments. Because if you've carried this your whole life without knowing what it was, you deserve to finally hear it. You're not overthinking. You're not too sensitive. You're not broken. You are one of the most perceptive people in any room you walk into. And now you know why. But here's something most people never consider. There is one behavior that develops after all of these signs. One pattern that only appears in people who've carried this kind of mind for decades. And when you see it, everything else suddenly makes sense. That's exactly what the next video is about.